Hello, everyone. Welcome to third innings, third innings for the third test of the first day. I'm your host Varun and as always, I'm joined by Shayan Ahmed Khan. So England finished the day at 251 for four. So Shayan, I don't know how you felt about this pitch, but to me, like it was a very weird pitch in a way. Like it didn't really help the batters, it didn't really help the bowlers, but yet both sides just looked like it was difficult to get wickets or score runs. Like it almost reminded me of the. I was thinking about this. Felt like a pace bowling version of the Ranchi pitch we saw in the last India England series, where it's like it was so slow, no one's making runs, but it wasn't like easy to get wickets.
Or make runs, exactly as you said. Yeah, I think it was, I think the pitch was, I think it was a bit slow, but I actually like the days played today quite a bit, much more than most of the other 10 days that we have so far had in the series before this match. And a big reason for it was we saw good competition between both bat and ball. We saw some good batting. We also saw some really good bowling from India, especially I think in that first hour where they were inducing a lot of Bumrah and Akashdeep and even Siraj. They were inducing a lot of false shots from both the openers, and then Nitish Reddy comes in and gets two wickets. One was a bad ball, one was a great ball, but I actually think he bowled pretty well even after that. And so all the fast bowlers, they all did a pretty decent job for India, I thought. And same way for the spinners, I think they also did pretty well to make sure that England don't really run away with the game. But then again, England also just stuck in, and there was this one period post lunch where India were bowling really, really well. That Bumrah and Siraj were like they had like a very long, like they had this 10 over sort of a thing where they were bowling together and nobody was able to make any runs, or but wickets were not falling either. So I think I really enjoyed that passage of play personally.
So that was the 28 dot balls in a row, right? I think both Bumrah and Siraj
Yeah,
bowled. Yeah, I remember
yeah.
that really well because I remember like when that was going on thinking, and I really hope Bumrah just doesn't bowl a loose ball and ruin the pressure. Then I realized what I just said. I was like, I can't believe what I was just saying. How is Siraj both sticking to the length and Bumrah's just searching for wickets and trying to bowl magic balls? And also, how the hell is Nitish Kumar Reddy India's best bowler in this day? Like, what is happening here? What the hell has Gautam Gambhir done? Right?
I actually think that they used him pretty well today, didn't they? Like, and he was also doing his job quite well, bowling in the right line and length and everything. And even apart from the two wickets, I'm saying, like, even if you keep that completely aside, he was able to, like, keep that pressure up. He's creating a few chances. He almost got Stokes out with that umpire's call. So I think
Hmm.
that was also a pretty good bowling from Nitish Kumar Reddy. Definitely India's most impactful bowler of the day. But once again, it was the pressure that was created by Bumrah and Siraj in particular to keep the run rate in flow, and then by the holding spinners as well. So I would still say this day was advantage England, and we'll talk about Joe Root in particular because what a brilliant innings he has played once again. And this was a very un-Joe Root like innings in a sense, simply because in the baseball regime at least, because we know that he has upped his game, like upped his strike rate and the way he plays a lot more flashy cricket and everything. But I think he can play this way as well, and that's part of the reason why he's such a great player, isn't it?
Yeah, completely agree. There's few things in life I was as sure about as I was about Joe making 100 on this day, like on this test match, right? Because I was like, the moment I was like, okay, the pitch isn't great to bat on. Like it's England are in a bit of like a bothers. I was like, yeah, root 100 written all over it, right? I was like, and just like I was completely sure he would make no runs on the flat pitches. I was like, he's gonna make 100 on the one tough pitch we've seen so far, right? And I don't think this was like a very
Yeah.
difficult pitch, but it's like tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a slow pitch, at least we can say that fairly. And
Yes.
Root is about to get one more 100 against India at Lords, and we've seen this before as well. And Root also loves batting at Lords, isn't it? So how
So
much does he
Root's
average at
the
Lords now? I think he has like
Mhm.
go
so
on.
I think Root's the first batter to get 3,000 runs versus India.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and
And the
he's
special
averaging
thing
like
about that record
58, I
is
think.
yeah. And the thing is, he has scored runs both in India and again and like at home versus India. So I think, for instance, if you take someone like a Ricky Ponting, who also has a brilliant record against India overall, a lot of it is skewed by all those big Border Gavaskar Trophy runs at home. But in India, he hasn't actually gotten a lot of runs. I think that's, and again, Steve Smith is another one, I think, who has also mastered batting against India both home and away. So I think, yet this is like business as usual for Joe Root almost. And when I see his wagon wheel, he's made 49 runs on the offside, 50 runs on the onside. Very classic Joe Root sort of stuff. Like he can knock it around on both sides of the wicket. I actually thought he wasn't really hitting too many boundaries, and because maybe he understood the situation really well, and that's the thing with great players, right? He was able to get the boundaries as well when they were required, but apart from that, he was just doing. I think Sanjay Manjrekar also brought this up and said that he kept getting singles a bit like how Kohli used to do. So I think he just kept getting singles regularly, and that was the big reason for his success today.
Yeah, I also thought he like matched up brilliantly versus bowlers. I think he's made 27 of 45 versus Nitish Kumar Reddy and 23 of 35 versus Akashdeep. Even though Nitish took 2 wickets, I think if you just look at the overall quality of bowling, I think it's fair to say both of them were probably the worst bowlers for India. So I think Root
Yeah, no,
really
I
did
get
really
that. I
well.
get that.
He cashed in versus both of them. Again, I think it's just a masterful innings. As usual, he looked great versus pace. He looked comfortable versus spin. Again, how good? How good is Joe Root, isn't he? So you think he needs what? Let
Always.
me do the maths. He needs 76 more runs to go past Callis to become the third highest run scorer of all time. Very realistic, good chance he does it in this innings. But if
In this innings.
like if that does happen, I think it would be seriously advantage England, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And uh, even Bumrah, I think I think the only time Root was a bit under pressure, like not under pressure rather, but when they were inducing a few false shots, was that passage of play that I mentioned where Bumrah and Siraj were bowling really well, and at times the ball was like jumping up a bit more, like from length, and that like it was just hitting his pads. It was not like massively bad batting from Joe Root or anything, but that was the only time it seemed like there was a little bit of discomfort at times. But as you said, he knew his bowlers, he targeted those really well. He got 9 runs of Washington Sundar and 13 runs of Jadeja as well. So he knocked it around comfortably against spin as well. So yeah, I think DOF says that Bumrah barely bowled to Root. I think that is also a fair point. I think actually because Root was also taking singles at times, wasn't he? Like in that passage of play, he was he was just taking singles and chilling at the non-striker's end, as he
I
does
think it's a classical thing.
sometimes,
The best place to face a fast bowler is on the other end. Like Root's a big believer of that,
especially
right?
when it's Bumrah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that was intentional at times, wasn't it? So
I
let's
could
talk
see
about
that.
a bit about his batting partner, Ollie Pope, for most of the day. It was
Yeah,
such a weird innings by Pope because he looked horrible for most of it. I think
I
like
agree.
they're like it might have been one of the weirdest 40s I've seen ever. I think his control percentage was like 76 in the end, and I genuinely don't know how it was that high.
Yeah, yeah, he really struggled a lot. I was actually reading like I was watching him bat first of all, and then I started like making taking screenshots of all the false shots that he played in that post lunch session because till lunch I think he was still relatively better. He had that control percentage in the mid 80s or in the 80s at least. That's what I can remember. But after that, it was around that 76 mark for like I think 76 was the last that I saw, as you also mentioned. So Bumrah and Siraj, they kept getting false shots induced out of him. Like he almost got out, right. Like he almost got out in the first. Like when he walked out, he just like Gill had a hard, difficult chance. But if that ends up being a catch again, Pope, we know that Pope is a very nervous starter, and it showed today as well. I think pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. He just again he nervous starter he was like my word this innings. I was like I was like if he gets 100 it would be like such a weird 100. But then he
Yeah.
does get out to Jadeja, I think. Right? It's like again I
Jurel took a
think like
brilliant catch.
it was a brilliant catch indeed. And we did see some turn out there, which is again like adding to the strangeness that this pitch is, where it's like we've seen everything for bowlers, we've seen nothing for batters yet. Like no one can take a wicket and no one can make a run, right?
I know, I know.
Like England are playing
And so
traditional test cricket. Their run rate just above 3, right? What the like? How often have we seen that?
yeah, I wonder where this innings ranks for them, like batting first in Test match cricket, or even in like the first 2 innings. Where does like as you mentioned, I think Ranchi is a pretty good parallel for this, just a fast bowling version of Ranchi. This now that you bring it up, and with Joe Root also making all those runs, I am starting to see the uncanny parallels between both. And like speaking a bit more about Ollie Pope, so he gets 23 of his runs of Akashdeep of 27 balls, and I think a few of those balls were also like down the leg side types, which he was just able to get away comfortably. But and sometimes maybe a few half like foolish deliveries, which he was able to like put away with ease. But in between, whoever saw that innings could tell that he was genuinely struggling quite a bit against against good quality bowling from India.
So this is their lowest run rate at the 80 over mark in the
Hmm.
baseball era. So like they've
Makes
been
sense.
had low run rates, but they've been bowled out in like the 30 like the 50 over mark, right? So if we just look at the 80
Yeah.
over mark, it is the lowest run rate they've had in since baseball has started, right?
Hmm. So
Yeah, the other one was
I
in fact
actually looked up.
Ranchi. The other one was actually Ranchi, the second lowest
Yeah.
run rate they had before this. So yeah,
Yeah.
again, Root just looks so good, doesn't he? Like, so let's briefly talking about Indian bowlers. I thought almost everyone was good. I think like Akash was like what like he just had like a serious regression to the mean. Where
Hmm.
like he took 10 wickets and then he just like he's probably the India's worst bowler today. I don't think he was horrible. I just think he was India's
Correct.
worst bowler
Correct.
today.
Hmm.
Like I also do think there was an element of like with Ollie Pope and him, like the amount of times I feel like he nearly like just kept edging it to onto his own pads instead of at the stumps. Like he just looked so uncomfortable versus Akash Pope, that is.
And he
But
still
yeah,
ends up
like
making
it's
23 of
yeah,
27, right?
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. I think
So
it's yeah, right. Like I don't like. So what did you think of Akash and Bumrah opening the bowling? So I think would have probably had Bumrah's first change, but I expected Bumrah to take the new ball.
yeah, yeah. Same. I think I wouldn't have had any issues with Bumrah was the first change bowler, but I think Bumrah and Akashdeep opening also was a pretty good idea, and with Siraj as the first change, and they actually brought on Siraj pretty early. I think just after the first 8 overs were done, they brought on Siraj, and I didn't have any issues. I actually thought both of them were bowling pretty well, and at any given point they could have gotten out Zach Crawley or Ollie Pope much earlier in the inning. Zach Crawley or Ben Duckett much earlier in the innings as well, given the amount of fall shots they were playing, and their control percentages were even lower. Like they were in what like the 50s and 60s for quite some time, and Crawley also took quite a bit to get some runs. Whatever runs he did, like for the first 18 odd balls, I think he had just one run at the start of his innings. So completely agree with you that I don't think I had any issues with them opening with the new ball. But yeah, I think with Akash Deep, another fair point that often a lot of people are bringing up is his potency with the old ball. And we know that most of his wickets so far in Test match cricket have come with the newer ball. With the older ball, yeah, I do agree that he wasn't able to pick up a wicket. But what did you think about like his bowling in general with the older ball?
Yeah, I
Was
just
it just
think like
luck?
if he, it makes sense, right? If he's like depends on like the wobble ball or seaming the ball, it makes sense that he isn't very as good
Yeah.
with the old ball. And also like
Hmm.
here's the thing though, if he has let's say he plays for Bengal, doesn't he? Right?
Yeah.
Bengal's a quite like seems a lot, doesn't it? I think the modern day Bengal pitch anyway. It's quite green, so it helps fast bowlers.
Hmm.
And even in India, usually like if you're a seamer, you usually are only bowling with the new ball. It's like oh you're
Correct.
reversing it with the older ball, right? Like he's
Hmm.
no I don't think he's like someone who reverses the ball in a way like Bumrah does or even Siraj to an extent, right?
Even
So I think it
Shami.
makes sense. Yeah, Shami is I think Shami is a bit different in a sense he's more like yeah like I think Shami's like slightly more different and he does reverse it a bit, but like Shamik's ability to just hit the stumps with the old ball is insane, right?
Yeah, that's what
Especially
I
in
was
the
saying. Yeah.
subcontinent. I don't think Akash has
Hmm.
that ability. So when people were like comparing him with Shami, I think if you compare both of them, you'd say Akash, from what we've seen, is a better new ball bowler than Shami is. Whereas I think Shami was definitely you'd say, take Shami with the older ball.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I definitely see your point there. Shami is
Also,
definitely one of the.
DOF brings up a good point. On any other pitch, Boomer gets stuck at first ball. That was a proper edge. Yeah, it does come. We
Agreed.
did see some weirdly low bounce on this pitch, right? Where it's like the edges just weren't carrying, and then Gill did the Steve Smith thing of like just coming forward with the helmet in the
Hmm.
slips, right?
Yeah, yeah, I also saw that. Yeah. Bart also has a
Uh,
comment.
so Indian bowlers were on the field for the second time in 6 days. England holds all the aces. I can see them bat till lunch and get a score of 450 before unleashing Archer on the Indian top order. That's a very, I agree with that. I think it's but the other thing would be like how fit is Stokes? If Stokes isn't fully fit, he might play a rush shot,
Hmm.
right? And again, other thing we have to bank on is a set Joe Root, right? Like a set Joe Root and an
Yeah.
informed Jamie Smith is a
Hmm.
very interesting combination, right? They could pile on runs.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
India
But
definitely
even then,
desperately need wickets, right?
what I was saying is that 450 runs by lunch does seem a bit much to me, especially given how India have bowled today. I don't really see like it could happen because because we know how mad Test cricket is. They could just simply like go nuts and make 200 runs in one session, but I do think it's very unlikely. But I think we will
I
see an
don't think
exciting
it
session
would
of like
be.
the opening session.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
Root and Stokes can make 200 runs in a session. If Brook was batting, I'm like sure. I think if Brook and Root, like I'm like if Brook and
or
Smith
even
were batting
Jamie
together, I
Smith.
can also see it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I can see, right? Right. It's like it's weird. So we'll just take a quick break and then we'll come back and just start like let's briefly talk about day two and other stuff.
Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pictures. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.
Hello everyone, welcome back to third innings. So Shayan, just briefly, I guess looking into the second day. So England are at 251 for 4. Root looks set and he is going to be hungry tomorrow. So Stokes again,
Yeah.
like if he like he's looked better than I've seen him in any of the other innings in this series. So he seems to be gaining
Completely
form
agree.
and he's probably due a big innings as well, right? So we've seen
Possible, yeah.
some help for spin for both Jadeja and Washington Sundar. I thought both of them bowled brilliantly. We've seen I think Bumrah started off really well with the new ball. So like I guess like the
Even
thing with the
Akash.
how do you think? So what do you think could happen tomorrow, or what would you hope to happen? What is realistic? Like let's just talk about some scenarios.
They could definitely add like another 200 runs from here. I think, especially with Joe Root
Mm-hmm.
set, I think that's a very realistic possibility. Even 500 could be possible. Like, but it would mean that even Stokes would have to contribute a bit more, maybe some work from the tail, and James Smith again performing, which he has been in this entire series. I think James Smith not has not had a single failure yet, has he? Because he made runs in both the innings
No.
in the first match and then again in the last match. So I think that's also pretty fair. And you talked about how Ben Stokes looked much better today. So his control percentage currently is 90. And I think that is
Mm-hmm.
completely fair given how he was looking at. Even against spin, I thought he looked relatively a lot more controlled today. And we know that now his injury, he was also not taking singles for some time because he was not able to like they were not able to rotate a lot of singles, which happens when Joe Root is batting. They tend to run a lot between the wickets, and I think that was a bit of a negative for England there. But more than that, if even if let's say Stokes makes a few more runs and gets out, uh, is he going to be fit to bowl? That is going to be the biggest question that England will be asking. And similarly, I think since we are talking about injuries, we have to talk about Rishabh Pant as well, right? What were your thoughts on that?
So I think what have you heard? I think his fingernail came off or something. From what I've last I heard on Sky, that's what I believe Sky said happened. So when he dove, I think like his fingernail came off, so he might be like have an injury that way. They said it isn't completely serious, so he probably will bat. I don't think it's a series-ending injury or anything like that. So that
Let's
is
hope
so. If
so.
Stokes can't bowl, it does change a few things for England, right? That would mean if India theoretically can take on Bashir, they would have to bowl a raw Jofra Archer, a tired Bryden Cars, right? And this doesn't, from what we've seen so far, it doesn't look like a Chris Vokes wicket yet. Things could change tomorrow, right?
Maybe with the new ball, he could cause like because with the new ball, I still thought there was some help in it, especially because Indian bowlers were also quite bowling quite well. So maybe because India did get a lot of fall shots from the first new ball, maybe Vokes can do what like maybe luck supports him this time and he gets a few early wickets. You never know, and maybe that matchup against KL Rahul where he can get the ball to come back in attack his stumps, and maybe if they can somehow manage to get Gill early because Gill has had favorable entry points all the way through the series so far, and maybe because of that reason, because of those reasons, it could be possible that maybe Wokes comes in. But I'm very very excited to see how Jofra Archer goes. Simply as a cricket fan, you want to see him perform, and you want to see him bowl at his like even forget the wickets, forget everything else. Like the experience of watching him bowl, I think, is something that a lot of cricket fans will agree with me that if he is bowling at full tilt, it will be a very exciting battle to watch, and how the Indian batters go against them. I'm very excited to see that tomorrow.
Yeah, completely agree. And also, like, if you're being pessimist, you would say that Indian batting is due a failure, right? So it's like they've
Yeah.
just done so well, and they've done well in all four innings, haven't they, right?
Agreed, fully.
So yeah, like I think again, as the classic thing in England, like the opening partnership would be very important for India. But the way I see it, if I think for England to be in a good position, if they can only lose one wicket in the opening session tomorrow, I think they'd be in prime position to just bat big, right? And also India just haven't been on the field as much as England have. So the other thing for if you're in England from an England point of view is grinding down the Indian bowlers, right? So just put them on the
Yeah.
field as long as you can. Like maybe up until like what see tomorrow, I guess if you can bat,
He,
you would exhaust them. And Siraj, I think, like I forgot who was making. So Darshan was making a point. He's like Siraj was under bowled today. So again, I don't know if that was just. Was it just a case of well in a six? Usually even in a five-man bowling attack, someone's under bowled. India had six bowlers, right? So it's like of course
yeah.
someone's going to be under bowled in it, right? Under bowled in that case. So I don't know if it's that or they just don't think he's completely fit or anything like that. I assume it's a
Maybe they
simple
want to
case of
manage.
yeah, I think it might be a simple case of managing. They just also I think Nitish bowled so much better than anyone expected. We saw turn for the spinners, so it might just be a simple case of that they
Yeah.
just didn't need him, which I think is perfectly a good fair enough just from their point of view, right?
Hmm. Completely agree with you. I think, and I Siraj had bowled I think what four different spells. So I think in his first spell in the first section he bowls 5 overs. Then that 6 over spell where he was bowling a lot. A lot of the times he was bowling with Bumrah. That was also a pretty good one post lunch. Then I think after that he bowls two more 3 over spells I believe after that. So if I'm getting my math right here, so I think
Yeah, I thought he
I didn't
bowled
have any issues with
beautifully.
his bowling today. But yeah, even I felt sorry.
Yeah, I thought he bowled beautifully in this test
You were
match
saying
so
something.
far.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was like, I thought he bowled beautifully this in this
Yeah.
on this day, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, I thought even he was a bit unlucky,
Yeah.
like as Siraj just seems to be this
Yeah.
series.
Okay. No.
I mean, I don't know if he just joined in Akshat, right? I think we've been saying there's been a lot of turn.
Yeah, he has been a bit unlucky, and I'm sorry I said he bowled 4 spells, but he actually bowled 3 spells.
So we'll just take a quick break here for a second.
Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pitches. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.
Hello everyone, welcome back to third innings. So Sean, before the break, so Akshat was saying, why are you guys discounting the amount of spin and invariable bounce on this wicket? Indian spinners are behind you on this wicket. We have been praising the Indian spinners, as we've said. There's been turn on this pitch. I just thought, again, I thought both the spinners bowled really well, right? Like you could have argued maybe they could have bowled more, but then it's like you could say that about all of our bowlers today, right? It's like it's a 6-man. It's like someone is getting under bowled, isn't it? Aren't they?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I can see that as well.
So Bot is a
And
serious
probably
fan. Is
today
a
it was
very
Siraj.
interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Can you see Bashir getting a 5 for in this game due to poor Indian shots? I think that's what Behram was saying in a group chat. He's like, watch how much, like, because I've like roasted Bashir so much, he's going to get a 5 for. Very realistic possibility, I think, just because it's like, because I think Test cricket is just funny, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it is possible. Why not? And
Like
another
maybe
thing
they
that I
over
would like to
attack.
say, yeah, sorry, I was just saying that I think that Bashir has been getting a fair bit of lack, like on social media in general, and I think he's a young spinner, so people should be a little more patient with him. And I heard, I think it was Adil Rashid and Moin Ali who were talking on their podcast that people need to give him some time, and I think he's not a very potent wicket taking threat yet, but maybe he can just hold up an end. And the thing is, Indian players are actually pretty good players of spin. The current batch of, like, we know that this is a very different statement, and like a year ago we might have been saying differently, but because of, like, there has been an overhaul in the batting, and now Pant, Jaiswal, Gill, all these guys are very good players of spin, especially on these wickets which are good for batting. And because if you remember, even the England series of 2024, I think Bart brings up a point where India lost a lot of wickets due to like just stupid shots, like, or just aggressive over attacking shots. That is a sort of situation I could see happening in this game as well, but I still think it's quite unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's quite unlikely, I would say. Yeah.
I agree. I just think the only reason it would happen is just because of the absurdity of it, right? Like Bashir getting a 10 for after just being like everyone saying you should be dropped, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
mean,
I sorry, go for it.
no, go on, go on. Sorry.
So I think Rishikesh was saying, do you think Gill delayed the spinner's entry as it could have helped with the overrate? So that's an interesting one because I think we probably didn't mention this yet. The overrate was horrible today by India.
Yeah. I mean, it was worse than England, right? And that is saying something. When you compare the first day one of the first two Test matches where England bowled the first, I think they bowled out 85 overs in both instances. And how many did India bowl today? 83. So I didn't like it too much. It's always
So
irritating to see.
so I think so part of that is because we had two injury stoppages today, right? Pant and Stokes. So I can
Possible, yeah.
understand that. So, but even then,
That is
even
fair.
by those standards, it was terrible overrate by India. Like they only got saved because I think the spinners did do some like make it up for to a certain extent.
Yeah. Always with Jadeja in the team, I think you do get a sort of bonus in that regard. And I think a lot of people are bringing up like all these part-time bowlers who have taken 5 wicket hauls against India on turning wickets. I think completely agree. And Joe Root is the most classic recent example, I think, where that was like a completely different surface to this one at least. And I think there is always an element of luck. Maybe if the wicket is spinning a bit too much, there's always a chance that even lesser bowlers could come into play. And because of that, today, uh, I think this is not that sort of a wicket. But the way I can see Bashir getting a 5 wicket haul is, as we said, like Indian batters just probably over attacking a bit too much, and Bashir also having a better day than he's usually had in this series.
Also, we talked about this, right? Like Jared's mentioned this as well. Shoaib Bashir's best ball is really good. Maybe he just
Hmm.
lucks into just bowling a lot of good balls. Like it could happen, right? So Hitman has again a question for us. How do you rate Gill's field setups in this series? I feel Pat's field setups are very important for retaining Ashes. I thought it was really good today. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I had too many issues today with this, and like in general, the field settings today, yeah, they were okay. What did you find extraordinary in those? Like, I might have
Again,
not noticed as carefully.
no, I think there were times where like what he was doing did feel a bit more proactive and more aggressive than he was usually been in this series. So I think with Jadeja, I think immediately having like a gut like an attacking slip corner, all of things like
Hmm.
that, right? So again, I think
Fair
definitely
enough.
was more proactive, and also we have to give him credit. Like bringing Nitish on in the 14th over was impressive after
Hmm.
England was no wickets down because all of us were
Yeah.
confused, right?
I agree. I agree. And I think they also. I think Gill also does well with the field settings in that post lunch session where India, would really put the squeeze on and did not allow England to get away. I think probably at that time they were able to like. He didn't go very defensive, but India kept bowling at the right length. So I think even their whole field settings also like they were looking for wickets constantly. I think it's also fair to say that, but they also didn't stray away too much from their lengths, which always helps a captain. So I think how good a bowler is on a particular day, like even if you keep the wickets aside and everything, how many wickets they've taken or how many chances they've created, but because I think like Indian bowlers were able to bowl a good length consistently today, because of those reasons, I think it also meant that Gill didn't have to spread his field out, or like, and because of that, obviously Indian bowlers bowling well meant that England couldn't rotate strike as well as they usually do, because which is a big part of baseball, that whole ODI batting and that whole style of play which you really dislike watching as a viewer, of how teams are, why are they taking singles so easily. Today I think you would have enjoyed this a lot more.
Yeah, I loved it. So again, I thought that was very smart by India, just being realizing that the pitch isn't maybe really bowling friendly, so they just choked England out with for the runs. And you also have to give England credit that they didn't fall into the trap. They didn't take the bait. They were more than happy to just stay out there, just dig in, just grind
Hmm.
out runs. So again, really impressive from both teams. Again, I'd probably just give it to England. If India had one more wicket, then I think it would
Hmm.
have been honors even. But I'd still say with a
Fair.
set route, like Stokes still out there. I think Jamie Smith to come.
Hmm.
England are in a really good position. Also, we don't know how this pitch will play out. If the pitch breaks, then it could be trouble for India. Or if like we don't know if it's going to be like the World Test Championship final, right, where it's like it
Hmm.
just keeps getting better and better for batting. So many
Yeah.
things can happen in this pitch, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree with you on that. This pitch did seem a lot different from the World Test Championship final, I think, at least in my opinion. Like, I feel like that wicket seemed to have more help in it for the fast bowlers. Would that be fair to say?
So here's the thing: did that have more help for fast bowlers, or was that just those better attacks?
But even like India have also had Bumrah, right? And Bumrah, as we said earlier, like that ducket chance that could have been out if there was a bit more carry, or maybe they
True.
they could have like were they standing a bit too far. You can't really like it's a bit hard to say these things I think without having conclusive data. But I think on based on the eye test, I would say it felt as if there was more in it for in that first WTC final. But again, it could be completely vibes. It may not necessarily be a data backed proper opinion in that regard.
All right, folks. So thank you so much for listening up to this point. We have a very fascinating day two coming up tomorrow, where anything could happen. Any team can go on with the advantage. Make sure to subscribe to goodareas.co. It's the one-stop shop for everything. And this podcast is one of the main reasons we can do this is because of our Patreon. So do go, if you can, just please do subscribe to our Patreon as well. Thank you so much for watching out, folks. See you tomorrow at the same time. Bye.
Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pitches. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.